por qué me dejaste. Bueno, mira, señora, ay señorita, nadie sabía lo que iba a pasar. Solamente fuiste y me dejaste solito en la eternidad. Señora, ay señorita, yo sé que ahora estás lejos de mí y siempre estoy pensando lo que estás haciendo y si te sientes más feliz. Y si te sientes más feliz, oye, y espero yo que no te sientas sola y que tu vida está llena de felicidad, porque deseo que nadie tenga que sentirse ahora mismo como yo, atrapado en la oscuridad, solito en la eternidad, solito en la eternidad, oye. Trompeta. Saxofón con Cristian. Toca. Que no te sientas sola y que tu vida está llena de felicidad, porque deseo que nadie tenga que sentirse ahora mismo como yo, atrapado en la oscuridad y solito en la eternidad. Ay señora, vuélvete acá, vuélvete. Ay señora, ya se fue. Oye, muéstrame tu tierra, mami. Vamos juntos, vaya. Bueno, mira. Oye, llévame al campo, la tierra donde naciste. Carretero tira su carreta, que recuerda donde viviste. Contemplarte en la sierra, contemplarte en los valles, y lo hacemos juntos para capturar los detalles. Tierra, tierra, muéstrame tu tierra, mamá. Tierra, tierra, muéstrame tu tierra, mamita. Tierra, tierra.
Buenos días.
Tierra, tierra. Bueno, mira de bro, estamos viajando lejos tierra. Escucha. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la será. Siempre la será, mamá. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la recordará. Óyelo bien, mamita. Y siempre la será. Siempre la será, oye. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la recordará. Siempre la recordará. Aquí es tu tierra y siempre la será. Vamos para allá, mamita linda. Tierra y siempre la recordará. Vamos para allá, mamá. Tierra y siempre la será. Siempre la será, oye. Tierra y siempre la recordará. Camina, como dice. Tierra y siempre la será. Siempre la será, mamá. Siempre la recordará. La tierra, tierra, tierra. Tierra, tierra. Vamos para allá, para tu tierra, mamita. Tierra, tierra. Siempre será tu tierra. Tierra, tierra. Camina para allá, camina.
Thank you very much for the coffee. Any Latinos in the chat?
Suena la trompeta ahí. Ay, qué rico.
Not today, not today, not today. One-fourth counts, one drop. One drop is all it takes. We do the challenge of the day on Monday. Yo, what up, what up, what up? Ba, 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 ba. What the hell? What the hell? Who's talking shit? Caribbean? Close enough. Yo. Okay, what up? Sorry, I have to cancel out. All right, before I do anything, I need to do a little addendum because my editor is making a video. And so the first thing I'm going to say is a little additional information that'll show up in the video. So if you're on Twitch TV right now, because that's the chat that's showing, we're going to get YouTube chat back, I promise, at some point. Date unspecified. You'll be in the video, so don't say anything too embarrassing. All right. Give me a sec to get into character. I think, where do I go? We now apparently have confirmation about who person 2 is, and person 2 isn't Andy McCabe, it's Donald Trump. So The reason we know this is because the charge that they dropped, or I shouldn't say they dropped, that the grand jury refused to indict on, relates to approval of a plan concerning person 2, this statement that James Comey basically denied being taught, that this is the transcription that we get, being taught. There's some dispute as to what the actual wording was of being taught or being told or something like that. And person 2 is Donald Trump, and person 1 is Hillary Clinton. That confirms what has been the suspicion, that the person 1 here is Hillary Clinton, and therefore the statement at issue is the Andy McCabe communication to the Wall Street Journal, which is the whole dispute. I don't think that was the most clear. I'm going to try again. Editor, take 2. Fuck, how do I... It's such a complicated thing to explain. And I'll get you guys to understand it in a second. I just need to add this to the end of it. I need to say that person 2 is Donald Trump, not Andy McCabe. That's like the adjustment, because we were suspecting that it was Andy McCabe yesterday. That's what I need to change. And the reason we know this is because the grand jury didn't indict on the first theory, which references Donald Trump as person 2. But that gives us additional insight that the first person is person 1 is Hillary Clinton, and therefore the false statement at issue pertains to Hillary Clinton in the communication. Okay, got it. All right, try again. Okay, apparently person 2 is not Andy McCabe and is Donald Trump. And the reason we know this is because the grand jury refused to indict on one of the counts, one of the theories of the Department of Justice. And that theory specifically pertains to a statement regarding Hillary Clinton's plan concerning Donald Trump. This is the testimony from which this originates. Senator Graham, September the 7th, 2016, the U.S. intelligence officials forwarded an investigation referral to FBI Director James Comey and Assistant Director of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok regarding U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Trump. So because we think that person 1 is Hillary Clinton in this phrase, we also think that Donald Trump is person 2 in this phrase. And that lends credence to the overwhelming discourse that the false statement at issue pertains to Andy McCabe and James Comey's communications regarding Hillary Clinton and a statement to the Wall Street Journal. So the upshot of this is, fuck, I'm going to start again. Shit. This is just so hard to explain. Maybe I should write it out, because it's actually a little bit tough. Just give me a second. Let me just make sure I get this. You don't need to teach me how to fucking scroll. All right, cool. Sorry, folks. I'll give you context in a second. Got it. Okay, being taught or being taught. Okay, cool. Let me see. So these are the points I need to come across. I need to say, we now have apparent confirmation. Okay, and then, so it goes person 2 Donald Trump. We know this because, okay. All right, sorry. Update. Okay, so apparently we know that Andy McCabe is not person 2, and the reason Andy McCabe is not person 2 is we think that Donald Trump is person 2. This is because the grand jury refused to indict on one of the theories of the Department of Justice that had a completely different statement from Comey's testimony related to Hillary Clinton's plan concerning Donald Trump. This is the exchange in that from Senator Lindsey Graham, and you can see the quotation here is Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning Donald Trump, and where Comey saying that that didn't ring any bells with him. Also notice the difference between the transcript and what was put in the indictment, where the transcript says being talk, and the indictment says being taught. So that might have some relevance in the case in which the grand jury had followed through on the indictment on this theory, but they didn't follow through on this. And what's the upshot of all this? The upshot of all this is it's very likely that the theory that I presented just now about the exchange between Comey and McCabe and whether or not they approved that disclosure to the Wall Street Journal is true. The reason why that's further confirmed is person one isn't Trump, it's Hillary Clinton, and the only working theory that connects James Comey to some ostensible disclosure regarding Hillary Clinton is that Andy McCabe disclosure to the Wall Street Journal. That's really the only working theory at this point. Cool. Okay, I think we got that. That's basically, I think, the best we can do. So just give me a second to just contact my editor, and then I'll give you all full context on everything, because I'm sure some of you missed my stream yesterday. So I appreciate your patience with me. I filmed the addendum. It is the third attempt that I give. The first things I'm talking about on stream. It takes 3 tries. It's the third one. And it'll be clear. Okay, folks, how you doing? How are you? How's everybody? Sorry for that little filming thing I just did there. Hope you guys are all doing well. You're lucky I'm here. Yo. Purple Perry raid is huge. Thank you, Purple Perry raid, if you raided. Is everyone having a wonderful Friday? Thank God it's Friday. Huh, folks? Big, amazing things going on in this country of ours and around the world. Apparently, Benjamin Netanyahu's giving a speech at the UN. Is everyone having a wonderful, wonderful day? Did you get your coffee? I still haven't gotten mine. I'm told it's coming. Hopefully it will be. You guys are being quiet. This is weird. There's no one commenting on YouTube. Living the dream, my friend. Living the dream. Okay, thank God it's Friday. Thank God. You guys indulged me a little bit there. Yesterday we had and you'll be able to see it if you missed it, so don't worry, there's an edit coming up about my whole rant on James Comey where I provide full breakdown of the background of why you're here. More importantly, I think Trump and his role in pressuring corruptly the DOJ to open this very, very flawed case. Thank you so much for the sub on Twitch. Your support means the world to me. Means the world. And yeah, it's we're gonna talk a little bit about it so that you guys know. You guys are armed with the facts. Tuvox. I know. Thank you again for the subs. Guys, you're the best. It is September, so if you have subs, now is the time. If you have an army, now is the time. If you call Starbucks Java chocolate chip drink coffee again, I will scream. I don't usually drink those. I usually drink cold brews. I drink that kind of stuff. I'm still sleepy getting coffee. Be right back. This Comey story. Oh, wow. We have a hype train in Twitch. Very cool. Guys, when you sub to the channel, it's a funny joke. When you subscribe to the channel, it's a prank that you're playing on me. It's a little funny game that we do. And you can be part of this. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. I don't want to grift that hard, though. It always makes me uncomfortable when I start grifting. It just doesn't... I'm not one to grift. But sometimes you got to make the boo-boos go away. Are you an oat milk kind of guy? Some people say I'm an oat milk guy. Some people say other things. People talk about different things. I was trying to listen to your talk with Prime yesterday. I just don't understand how you can get through a conversation. I do not recommend that debate. I think it was very annoying to participate in and probably more annoying to watch. So, but we will post that eventually. We're going to do the Comey thing first because I think it's more important than the 1,000th conversation about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump and why you should have voted for Kamala Harris. I can't believe we're still, given everything that's happening, where we're still having this conversation. Shitlib, you fucking shitlib. It got a little tense, bro. It got a little tense. Now, I don't really care. I don't take it that seriously in terms of after the fact. You're in the arena, you're doing these little debates. And frankly, when you're done with it, it's not something that I take that seriously. It's not grifting, it's shilling, and there's nothing wrong. Oh, thank you. Well, allow me to shill. If you subscribe, you get these wonderful, or if you're a member on YouTube, wonderful little blue guys. You see these blue guys from Mitchell? Mitchell's a longtime blue guy poster. So you got blue guy, and then you got blue MAGA. We might have to release some blue MAGA hats at some point. But yeah, all right, let's talk about, convince me to vote. If you really, we'll have an edit of the debate up at some point. We're going to do the Comey stuff first, though. And, yeah. Cumin says you're boring. Oh, okay, cool. All right, so this Comey shit is deranged. It's fucked up. It's not good. We don't like this indictment. We don't like this indictment principally, A, because it was the result of a pressure campaign out in your face by the President of the United States to force his Department of Justice to go after his political enemies for political reasons. We don't have to speculate as to the fact that it was a political pressure hit job because Trump said it himself. The posts themselves are tying the indictment of Comey to Trump's indictments, which occurred after Comey was the FBI director, and his impeachments. And so they don't pertain to the actual allegations in the indictment or what Comey is alleged to have done. Comey was the person they wanted to go after. They didn't have a crime, so they invented a crime. That's what's going on here. And Trump himself said it when he is tying in his own mind, with his own words, the prosecution of Comey to various different grievances related to his matters that have nothing to do with what they're alleging Comey did. That tells you why he's being indicted. Doesn't have to do with the underlying there. It's worth stopping for a moment, though this is not so fruitful an exercise, that the kind of interference that Trump is actually admitting to, and where there is no dispute as to his interference, is what the Trumpists and the elitist propagandist class of MAGA, what they were alleging falsely that Joe Biden did, right? Joe Biden honorably did not interfere in the DOJ's prosecutions of Trump or of any other person. He didn't interfere. And I've defended him about that and said that was an honorable decision not to get involved and to break that norm of White House interference in Department matters. That's been a norm that Trump has been the most frequent violator of, and that Biden didn't violate. But this is essentially what the MAGA propagandist class was accusing Biden to have done, which is to get in the weeds in the DOJ and to direct prosecutions. There's no dispute right now, right? Trump is directing prosecutions of his political enemies in the DOJ. That is a fact. That is public record. Okay? And this is just undeniable at this point that he's doing this. And he's firing Trumpist U.S. attorneys who themselves are uncomfortable with the direction he's taking it. So he appoints someone who's a Trumpist, a Trumper prosecutor guy, into the Eastern District of Virginia. He comes back and is like, listen, this case is horrible. There's no case here. And we'll talk a little bit about why. There's no case here. And he fires him because he won't bring the case. He fires this guy because he won't bring a case and installs someone with no prosecutorial experience on a Monday. And she has to make the prosecutorial decision to charge Comey in like days, having never been a criminal prosecutor ever, having no experience in the department ever, whose only prerequisite to having this job in the first place is willingness to charge Comey. So yeah, it's the big story here is the corruption of the Department of Justice. And that stuff is horrible, even though this case is, I think, very, very weak. And I think I made a bold prediction on Twitter that it's not likely to get to trial. Even though the case is very, very weak, it's still bad. It's still significantly bad. Even though it'll likely, I think, end in Comey himself being acquitted / having the case dismissed. If it like acquitted, if it does go to trial, and more than likely than that, dismissed. Even though I think that that's the most likely, by far the most likely outcome here. It's still bad. And it's still bad because it's the corruption of the presidential office, the White House, but also because of the signaling effect. Corruption of the White House and DOJ and everything else, right? Of the entire executive branch. But also because of the signaling that it sends to the rest of the government. The signaling that if you start to investigate anyone associated with Trump, we'll come after you with the department for doing your job. Not for anything else, but for doing your job. We'll invent some bullshit crime that isn't even real to charge you with if you start investigating any MAGA affiliates, God forbid Trump. So that is why this is so bad. It's not just for the consequences related to Comey, but also because it further corrupts the executive branch and sends a signal internally, hey, don't go after my friends. It's a mafia state. It's a mafia state that operates as a racket of sorts, where you have to give protection money to Trump or his affiliates, and they will investigate you. And if you try to come after the mafia, if you try to come after the boss, they'll come after you. That's what's going on here. We're being turned into a corrupt kleptocracy. Kleptocracy? Kleptocracy? How do you pronounce it? Kleptocracy. Oh my God. That's it, yeah. We're being turned into a corrupt kleptocracy. And the MAGA elitist, propagandist shills, they are cheering it on every step of the way. So now let's actually talk about this indictment and why it's so weak. Okay? First, look at it. Now, it's not against the law to have an indictment this short, but there is essentially no narrative here, no explanation of why this case is being brought, of the facts here, other than the bare essential of the alleged false statement. But no discussion of why they know that Comey made a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement. And count two is essentially just repeating that these were the efforts to obstruct a congressional proceeding. And that method essentially was by lying, allegedly. So the length of it suggests that this is not a speaking indictment. And the lack of detail, there's a reason for that. Because if you were to actually get into the facts, it is a preposterous theory. Preposterous theory. We'll read it again because it's that quick. On or about September 30th, 2020, in the Eastern District of Virginia, the defendant James B. Comey Jr. did willfully and knowingly make a materially false, fictitious, and fraudulent statement in a manner within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch of the government of the United States by falsely stating to a U.S. senator during a Senate judiciary hearing that James Comey, quote, had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in the news report regarding an FBI investigation concerning Person 1. Person 1 here is Hillary Clinton. We know this because we have the charge that they didn't bring, the indictment that didn't go through by the grand jury. And that part of the case, which was dropped, references Person 1's approval of a plan concerning Person 2. And if we actually go to the Senate proceedings there, it fills in the blanks. Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump. So Person 1 is Hillary Clinton. Person 2 is Donald Trump. back to the indictment. So what is the problem here? According to the government, according to the DOJ, yeah, the YouTube chat will be coming up at some point. All right, we're trying to get it back. Chill. Can the DOJ be charged with crimes for doing stuff like this once they're out of power? Very unlikely, but there could be like ethics implications. I think that they should be able to be open for indictment for certain official acts, but we'll see what the Supreme Court says, or if anyone even decides to bring these kinds of cases against officials in the Trump White House, assuming Democrats get in office, and assuming that they're not all pardoned. So stay with me, all right, folks? So James Comey lied, alleging, this is alleged by the government, that James Comey lied to a U.S. senator in this hearing because even though James Comey said he had not authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports concerning Trump or Clinton, he in fact had authorized someone at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports regarding Clinton, right? Regarding Clinton. The investigation is into Clinton. You get me? So the government says you lied to a U.S. senator in 2020 in a hearing when they asked you, had you been an anonymous source or authorized an anonymous source to the media for an investigation regarding Clinton, you said no when you had, right? So you lied to the Senate. The notion that we would care about this shit, this is not part of the narrative that the Trump MAGA establishment have been pushing for years and years and years, right? This has nothing to do with the Russia investigation. This has nothing to do with Trump, right? Releasing stuff about Trump. This is about releasing stuff regarding Clinton. So none of this is related to Russiagate. Remember when they were all saying you need to charge him with seditious conspiracy? They didn't do that. They didn't bring a case about Comey lying regarding hurting Trump. This is allegedly a lie regarding hurting Clinton. That's number one, but it's a lie. It's an alleged lie, right? It's not actually a lie. It's fake. This is all fake shit. This is all bullshit, and we'll talk about that. But that's the theory, right? The theory that they're running with is we're charging you because you lied to a senator about leaks pertaining to a Clinton investigation. But nothing to do with Russiagate. Nothing to do with Crossfire Hurricane. Nothing to do with Mueller. Paragraph 2. The statement was false because, as James Comey then knew, he in fact had authorized person 3 to serve as an anonymous source in news reports regarding an FBI investigation concerning person 1. So person 3 here, person 3 is likely Andy McCabe. So the allegation appears to be that Comey authorized McCabe to disclose to the Wall Street Journal about the existence of a Hillary Clinton investigation, Clinton Foundation investigation, and that was not true when Comey denied it. But the theory doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense because there's no evidence for it. What we have is McCabe disclosing to the Wall Street Journal the existence of that Hillary Clinton investigation. There was an entire report about this. This is the IG report into Andy McCabe. Andy McCabe was the deputy director of the FBI under James Comey. So McCabe disclosed to the Wall Street Journal, and there's no evidence that Comey authorized him to do so. in this report by the OIG sides with Comey. There's essentially he said, she said, where Comey says he was never told that McCabe was authorizing this leak at all. And McCabe says, I did tell Comey. But here's the problem, folks. Even if you believe McCabe, and the government in 2019, when Trump was in office the first time, didn't believe McCabe and tried to charge McCabe and failed at the grand jury. Even if you believe McCabe, and the OIG didn't believe him either, right? So the Trump term 1 DOJ didn't believe McCabe and wanted to charge him and failed. And the OIG didn't believe McCabe, credited all to Comey, says Comey was the one who was straightforward up front. McCabe was the one who had a contradiction initially because McCabe said he never had disclosed at all to the Wall Street Journal and then changed his story. And Comey was consistent throughout. Even if you believed McCabe, McCabe only alleges that on October 31st, he talked to Comey about it. The article was published on October 30th. So even under McCabe's, if you take his story to be true, McCabe didn't seek authorization to leak to the Wall Street Journal. He leaked to the Wall Street Journal and then told Comey about it after. Where, according to McCabe, Comey was kind of like, yeah, okay, that's whatever. So even if you just believe McCabe on everything after the fact, there's this dispute about afterwards what was said, where the OIG and the DOJ under Trump term 1 all believed Comey, and in fact went to go charge McCabe. Even if you believe only McCabe, at best, Comey after the fact acquiesced to the disclosure but didn't authorize it, right? Imagine that someone says to you, hey, I drove your car and I picked up groceries. And you're like, wait a second, what? You drove my car? Okay. Could you say that you authorized him to use your car? No, he used your car without authorization. And later on, you acquiesced to it and you were like, no big deal. And you didn't push the issue. And remember, I have to stress this again, that's assuming McCabe's version of events, which were very much doubted by the Trump term 1 DOJ and the OIG. So, right, like even under McCabe's theory of the facts, it's only an after leak acquiescence. It's not a authorization. But the English language, words, linear time, these are not concepts that matter to corrupt DOJ officials under Trump, much less to the MAGA elitist propagandist class. So everything you're seeing on social media, whatever, about Russiagate, about this or that, about the FISA war, none of this has anything to do with the cases going on right now. McCabe got a settlement from FBI for wrongful firing, so he didn't lie. Listen, there's a way that you can make sense of and say that, both Comey and McCabe were telling the truth. I'm not here I'm just saying, even assuming McCabe was correct, right? Because a lie is a deliberate intentional falsehood. Even if you're assuming McCabe is correct about all of his allegations regarding the conversation, how everything went down with Comey, even under that version, there's no basis to suggest that Comey was lying here about anything. So none of this indictment has anything to do whatsoever with Russiagate or whatever. And they don't care, right? They don't care. And the reason that the MAGA propagandist shills and the government bootlicking shills, they don't care is, one, they love corruption. It's a way to vice signal, right? They want to signal vice. Instead of virtue signal, they signal vice. And so they love corruption. They love bad things. They want bad things to happen. They're like Satanists. They love evil. So that's the first reason they don't give a shit that this case is fundamentally flawed. And number two is because they don't care about the crime at issue. They just want to go after the man. They just want to go after Comey, not for a specific thing Comey did, but just because it's Comey. And so as soon as Comey is indicted, they're just going to put up all of the distortion of facts, frankly, the distortion of the historical record on Comey, even though that shit has nothing to do with the case at hand. And you don't believe me? If you don't believe me, listen to this guy. So this is Andrew McCarthy. This guy's unhinged on Russiagate, on Maria Bartiromo, a Trump propagandist shill. This guy's an unhinged legal analyst, in my opinion, and he's said some wild shit. But he pretends to get into the weeds on some of these Russiagate matters, and he's been a huge critic of the DOJ that investigated Trump. And he's written for the National Review, big time conservative guy on a Trump MAGA propagandist shills network. And as a further backdrop to all of this, understand that Comey, that this case against Comey, the Trumpist U.S. attorney who Trump initially appointed, he fired, right? Because he didn't want to bring the case. The reports are Pam Bondi didn't want to bring this case, that Pam Bondi was saying, hey, why don't we, instead of doing this case, why don't we charge Ambassador John Bolton this week? As though we're just trading favors and as though the interest of justice. Can you imagine that, by the way? Let's charge this other guy because the goal of the DOJ is to assuage the revenge fantasies of Donald Trump. And so instead of taking this really, really bad case to trial, or to try to take it to trial and indict Comey, let's just give him a little something and indict Bolton on a totally unrelated matter this week so we can distract Trump with the Bolton indictment. That's how corrupt our DOJ is that they're trading favors like that, or that's the reporting at least, and that Pam Bondi did not want this case. Now, after the fact, they're all going to ratify it because they don't want to make the same mistake that Jeff Sessions made. They don't want to make the same mistake that Bill Barr made under Trump term 1. So, yeah, I mean, that's, before you listen to this clip, again, by a right-wing legal commentator for the National Review who has been the most critical. In fact, a lot of these MAGA propagandist shills get some of their talking points from McCarthy himself, on one of the most propagandist news anchors shows. That is Maria Bartiromo. Okay? So that's what you're about to listen to.
First, give us your reaction to the indictment.
Well, I don't think there's a case. The things that Kash Patel that you just played, that he was talking about, that you and I have spoken about for years, Maria, the Russiagate stuff, I'm as big a critic of that probably as there is. I wrote a book about it. I think it was a disgrace, and history will remember it that way. This indictment is not about that, and it seems to be premised on something that's not true, which is that McCabe said that Comey authorized him to leak to the Wall Street Journal. If you look closely at what McCabe said was that he directed a leak to the Wall Street Journal and told Comey about it after the fact. So it's true that Comey never authorized it in the sense of okaying it before it happened. So I don't see how they can make that case.
What about the leaking in general? I mean, what about leaking a story that they may have known was a lie to the media? Because if you're the director of the FBI, you need the evidence to say, yeah, I mean, for years, congressmen and lawmakers were trying to understand, Devin Nunes, John Radcliffe, trying to understand what's the origins of this investigation. So what was the origins of Russia collusion with Trump? And so they never really had any evidence of it, but they leaked it to the press?
Yeah, but that's not what this case is about. I totally agree with you if you were talking about the information that was provided to the FISA court that claimed that Trump was in collusion with the Kremlin. But that's not what this case is about. What this case is about is Comey is accused of lying because what Ted Cruz said, and this, yeah, right, and what Cruz said, and I think this was just a garble on his part, was that Comey authorized McCabe to orchestrate the leak. And what the Inspector General found, and this isn't even just what the Inspector General found, this is McCabe's own version of events. Right. McCabe said that he directed the leak, and he told Comey about it afterwards. Now, they have a dispute about what exactly McCabe told Comey afterwards and whether Comey was approving or disapproving of it. But the charge is that Comey authorized the leak, and he didn't authorize the leak.
That is Andrew McCarthy, one of the foremost critics, intellectual critics of the Russia investigation. And he's just saying what's plainly obvious. This case makes no fucking sense. That's why the Trumpist U.S. attorney didn't want to bring it in the first place. Why he was fired rather than bring it. So what's the evidence here? What's the plan? Is the plan we're going to call Andy McCabe to testify against Comey? McCabe, who's like one of Comey's, they were very close confidants. McCabe, who hates Trump. How's that going to play? You think McCabe's going to be a cooperative witness for you on trial? And besides that, what other evidence is there that he authorized this specific leak? Besides McCabe's say so, he said, she said, right? Even assuming McCabe had said that, this would be a weak fucking case. What's the evidence? Do you have anything? They don't have shit. This case is stinky and awful. And I'm going to try to debate it next week on Wick's show. Apparently he's putting together a team. I don't know who he's going to bring on. Here's my bet. Whoever they bring on to defend Comey indictment, the Comey indictment, is going to be some like unhinged, deranged MAGA mouth breather who hasn't even read any of this shit. Doesn't know anything. I doubt Rob Knorr will defend this indictment. Maybe, I mean, he will to his audience, but on a debate setting where the topic is this indictment justified? From someone who knows the facts? Doubtful. And if Rob does come on, we need to actually have some clarity on the topic. And Wick needs to enforce it. The topic needs to be regarding the indictment, whether you support it or not, and not whether is everyone on the panel a jackass. We can do that after if he wants, but we need to have a debate about this indictment, whether he supports it. But yeah, I mean, you know now why this case sucks. And it didn't take less than an hour. Sorry, it did take less than an hour. It took less than an hour. Like 10 minutes. The case is premised on an alleged lie to a senator. The alleged lie is regarding a leak to the Wall Street Journal, and there's no evidence that Comey leaked or authorized a leak to the Wall Street Journal. Zero evidence. And that's it. Any questions? Yeah, you can indict a ham sandwich. Yeah, because when you're in front of the grand jury, it's just the prosecutor with their own witnesses, with their own test, and no defense at all. And even in the grand jury, where you can get so much bullshit through, they failed on one of their different theories. because this whole thing is just preposterous. Pisco, have you considered that Biden could Twitter FISA warrants? How quickly will the case be thrown out? I'm not so sure about that. So I think the very first thing that needs to happen is a big ass motion on selective prosecution. That's a more contentious issue that I don't know the result will be. But in just terms of the sufficiency of the evidence as a matter of law, I don't think that there's a reasonable juror that could come to the determination that James Comey lied here. No reasonable juror. Based on the evidence that we have available at right now, no way. No way. And that's true. Durham looked into this as well and chose not to indict. This case is dog shit. Okay. Oh, did I say there's a judge present in the grand jury? Sorry, no judge present. Thank you for that correction. I'll put that in. I'll tell my editor as well. Hang on. And then we'll think of something to talk about for like some time. I mean, this is all I had though. I wanted to make this recorded in correction. Let's see. Also like many say, it's ironic that they're going after Comey. Without him, Hillary likely would have won. Yeah, no, I talked about that during my little recap yesterday as well. Any other questions? Let's see. Who else do you predict is going to indict? I think Letitia James will be indicted as well for the same reason, right? And I'm less read in on the mortgage fraud shit there, so I can't really speak to why. I mean, the reporting is that they don't want to charge her for that and that she has pretty good defenses. Maybe because it's like a mortgage application versus whether or not it's the actual documents, the loan documents. Maybe there's a difference there. That's the most I know, is that there's allegedly there was an unwillingness to charge James for substantive weaknesses in the case. Basically, did you read Emma Vigeland read a DM live on Majority Report asking if they would have you on, and she said that she would love to? Oh, no, but I did hear that happened, and I'm going to take a look at it. Okay, let's see. If there's any call-ins, you guys can do it now. Otherwise, that's all I got for you. Let me think if there's other shit that I prepared separately. Oh, I was going to do the Humphreys executor stuff, but that can wait a little bit. We don't have to do a fucking legal read today, right now. If there are people who want to call in, I'll take one or two callers if there's willing people who want to jump into the Discord. Otherwise, that'll be all she wrote. What do you think about JAG judges being assigned to immigration? I didn't know about that. Did not know about that. I heard that they made a policy change to like say anyone could apply to be an immigration judge with or without experience. And yeah, they are really stretching the limits here. Potentially even due process limits. If you're put before a judge, like imagine that Trump says, I am the fucking president. I can fucking put anyone I want to be an executive branch official. Because remember, these IJs are executive branch officials. And I can even make a 2-year-old an immigration judge. At some point, there's got to be a due process issue with having immigration judges who are so woefully inadequate that you're not even giving procedural due process to these people. I forget what the change was. Do you think the Supreme Court upholds Trump's tariffs? It's possible. I just think that the Supreme Court, they just want to give Trump wins, man. Having logical and understandable rules that are consistent doesn't seem to matter to the Supreme Court. Recently, they've had like incoherent opinions that are self-contradictory and that make no sense. So, Supreme Court upholding Trump's tariffs, your guess is as good as mine, man. Posse Comitatus violation, anything related to emergencies and deploying the National Guard, even though when it's clearly Congress's prerogative to put restrictions on shit, I just think that the Supreme Court is just going to give Trump whatever he wants with respect to using the military and shit. They don't want to get into it at all. Odds of Obergefell goes down within 4 years, I think low, but I think they'll try. Probably like 20%, I'll put it, which is too much. But what can I say? What can I say except you're welcome? Immigration officers already act as de facto judges in some cases. The difference in standards of due process for immigration is already disproportionate. No, totally agree. I just mean like, at some point at some point of incompetency, I think that there should be a due process issue. But who's to say? You think we could ever get changes to the emergency docket? I don't know how. And that's the Supreme Court's own fault. They basically have made it possible for Trump to use the Supreme Court as like a hotline. And he can get to the Supreme Court very fast and get rulings in his favor very quickly on these emergencies. And they'll humor him, regardless of the factor analysis or whatever. But regardless of the balance of equities, regardless of all the things that you're supposed to take into consideration for stays and emergency requests and that kind of shit. So, I don't know if we can get some emergency change without broader Supreme Court reform or legislation of some kind. It is a shame. It's a shame we're here. And you know who I blame more than the prime Kais of the world? The people who didn't vote for Hillary in 2016. You motherfuckers. How different the world would be if you motherfuckers who didn't vote for Hillary just voted for a woman once in your life. 2016. Like, Jesus. 3 Supreme Court justices stopping Trump before he starts. No January 6th. No Trump term 2. Millions of lives probably saved. Because some fuckers in the Rust Belt were mad about the trade deals. Sorry to be condescending. You know, I'm not in the mode at the moment to appeal directly to the voters. Why didn't you all Pokemon go to the polls? I was begging people. Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, Pisco's Hour. You voted for Hillary in 2020, Biden in 2020, and Kamala in 2024. So you voted for Hillary and Biden in 2020. You can't blame the left. I didn't blame the left. I just said people who didn't vote for Hillary in 2016. Yeah, he misspelled. He misspelled. I was begging, look at the Russia shit, please. Is that obvious? Oh, I never followed up on that. At this point, it feels kind of... I mean, I'm open to it for sure. He was like, it was a weird thing where he was like busy for one weekend, I was busy for the next. And then we never followed up. Blame the DNC for forcing her on us. The voters voted for Clinton. But yeah, Clinton, not a great candidate. You know what, Goblin? You should watch the debate yesterday. I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it. If Hillary won in 2016, Russia would have invaded Ukraine, clearly. Huh? Russia invaded Ukraine in 2014. Damn, homie, I didn't even finish last night's stream. Bernie bro's too stubborn. All right, let's see what else I can talk about for the... I'll do, I don't know, 10 more minutes with y'all. You've been good. First of all, follow me on TikTok if you haven't. Call to action, Pisco Liddy. How are my New York homies? I like Bernie. I don't know if I was a Bernie bro, but I voted for Bernie. In every opportunity that I could. Not a great candidate. She literally won the popular vote. Someone tell Calcifer that the popular vote doesn't determine the outcome of the election. And just because you win a popular vote doesn't mean that you're a good candidate. You gonna start TikTok live debates? Yeah, if I get enough followers. I'll do some TikTok live debates. That should be fun. I always like the 1v1 stuff way more than the panel shit. Lawfare for the enough. I mean, it wasn't lawfare to go after Trump for his obvious crimes. It's lawfare to go after Comey because this shit's fucking weak. And I think even the fact that you say it's lawfare, I think indicates that you're aware that this is a weak as fuck case. I'm going to play this again.
First, give us your reaction to the indictment.
Well, I don't think there's a case. You know, the things that Kash Patel that you just played that he was talking about that you and I have spoken about for years, Maria, the Russiagate stuff, I'm as big a critic of that probably as there is. I wrote a book about it. I think it was a disgrace, and history will remember it that way. This indictment is not about that, and it seems to be premised on something that's not true, which is that McCabe said that Comey authorized him to leak to the Wall Street Journal. If you look closely at what McCabe said was that he directed a leak to the Wall Street Journal and told Comey about it after the fact. So it's true that Comey never authorized it in the sense of okaying it before it happened. So I don't see how they can make that case.
What about the leaking in general? I mean, what about leaking a story that they may have known was a lie to the media? Because if you're the director of the FBI, you need the evidence to say, yeah, I mean, you know, for years, congressmen and lawmakers were trying to understand, Devin Nunes, John Ratcliffe, trying to understand what's the origins of this investigation. So what was the origins of Russia collusion with Trump? And so they never really had any evidence of it, but they leaked it to the press?
Yeah, but that's not what this case is about. I totally agree with you if you were talking about the information that was provided to the FISA court that claimed that Trump was in collusion with the Kremlin. But that's not what this case is about. What this case is about is Comey is accused of lying because what Ted Cruz said, and this, yeah, right, and what Cruz said, and I think this was just a garble on his part, was that Comey authorized McCabe to orchestrate the leak. And what the Inspector General found, and this isn't even just what the Inspector General found, this is McCabe's own version of events.
Right.
McCabe said that he directed the leak and he told Comey about it afterwards. Now, they have a dispute about what exactly McCabe told Comey afterwards and whether Comey was approved.
So there you have it. There you have it. Even under McCabe's theory, McCabe who hates Trump and who Trump hates McCabe, and I can't imagine they're going to put him on the stand. Even under McCabe's version of events, Comey didn't lie. There's no evidence that Comey lied. So this case is nonsense, man. And people who support it are basically saying, I'm in favor of nonsense cases against people that I don't like. Because it's comeuppance. And it's an admission that you really don't care about justice. You like corruption. That's what I mean. These people like corruption. And so the case is dog shit. It's a weak fucking case. All right, folks. I think that's all I have for you. I'm going to be away this weekend. But we'll be back on Monday. We'll release some videos though on the channel, I think, over the course of the next few days. And I think we'll have that panel on Wick TV. I might do some TikToks and stuff as well while I'm away from my setup for the weekend. So stay tuned on those socials, on Twitter. Maybe I'll do a Spaces at some point. Maybe I'll do a TikTok thing. So TikTok at Pisco Liddy, Instagram at Pisco Liddy. And yeah, that should be good. And please, when the Comey video comes out, if you guys could just do me a favor, it would mean the world to me. This is a video that I care about because I want the truth to get out. Like the video. Thank you so much for the membership, subs on Twitch. It really means the world to me. Like the video and just keep it plain. Even if you've seen all the shit already, just keep it plain. It would mean a lot to me. I think that video I would love to send out because it has like the context also of who Comey is and why this is important, that kind of shit. And I'll segment the video so you can skip right to the indictment if that's what you're interested in. But yeah, I really do appreciate all you guys. And yeah, stay tuned and watch your favorite liberal content creator today. Maybe I'll have some opportunities to do some other content today. But if not, stay cool. I love you guys.